So how did I create my first $1 million of net worth? In this video, I'm going to share my journey into financial success. And honestly, it did not come naturally for me. I had to go through a lot of challenges to get to where I am today, but hopefully my story can help inspire others to believe that they can do it too. So like I said, in this video, I'm going to share the path that I took to go from more than $60,000 in debt to well over $1 million in net worth in about 5 years. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you a summary of all the key mindset shifts that led to my success. Because if I could give everyone just one gift, it'd be an abundant mindset. And I think that would make the world a whole lot better place. So let's get into it. First of all, how did I get myself buried into debt in the first place? Well, I wish I could say it was because I spent too much money out partying and enjoying myself, but the reality is I've never been a big spender and I've always been a really hard worker. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest and started working 30 to 40 hours a week while I was still in high school. After high school, I went to college at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and I worked my way through college too. Eventually, I completed my degree in construction management and architectural studies. Now, I chose that program not because it was my passion, but because I was chasing money. I knew that those degrees would provide a high starting salary, and it did. Right out of college, I was making more than $50,000 per year as a project engineer building large resorts in Hawaii. My first project was actually a project on Maui with a budget of well over $500 million. You see, I was doing all the things and checking all the boxes that society says we're supposed to be doing at a young age. But then I fell into a lifestyle trap. I bought a new truck and I rented a really nice condo right on the beach. And of course, we all know that rent in Hawaii is not cheap. For the first couple years, I thought I was living the good life, but all the money I was earning from working 50 to 60 hours a week was just enough to get by, and I was completely reliant on a regular paycheck. I had to go to work in order to survive. And since I chose my college degree and my career based solely on what I thought would make the most money, I was out of alignment with my purpose and stuck doing a job that I really did not enjoy. Now, the finance gurus at the time were telling people to cut back on minor expenses. Instead of going to Starbucks, make your own coffee. Instead of going out to eat, you should pack your lunch to work. That sort of thing. But I started to do the math, and even if I could save $250 per month on the little things, I'd only be saving around $3,000 per year, and that isn't exactly life-changing money. In fact, how long do you think it would take to save $1 million at that pace? If you do the math, when you save $250 per month and don't invest it, it'd take more than 330 years of saving in order to reach the $1 million milestone. Looking back on it now, those financial gurus were teaching what I now call a scarcity mindset. And on top of that, I was really starting to get burnt out from working a job that I was only doing for the money. It became a grind just to get out of bed every day, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So it was around this time that the financial crisis started to set in around 2008, and I got laid off from my high-paying job. Now, at first, this came as a relief because I really was ready for a change, but then reality set in and the bills started to pile up. I went from a high-paying career with benefits and stock options to all of a sudden, I had to sell my new truck, I had to leave Hawaii, and I moved back in with my parents in Wisconsin. Talk about a depressing turn of events. I quickly found myself buried in around $30,000 of debt, and on top of that, I was being dragged down by an unhealthy romantic relationship. You see, I was so out of alignment with my truth that I was attracting all the wrong people into my life. Now, one of the major turning points for me was when I decided to cut out all the negative people in my life and to stop blindly following the typical life path that the majority of society says is what we're supposed to do. I started to do my own research and educating myself on how money actually works. In fact, the first book that I read that was a real eye-opener for me was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I know he has come under some scrutiny since then, but the lessons in that book still lay the foundation for a basic understanding of money. If you haven't already, I highly recommend reading that book. It is written at a 6th grade level, so it's a super easy and quick read, but it's full of helpful and easy to understand insights. And for me, after reading that book, it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I could finally see in my own mind's eye a path out of the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. From that point forward, I became committed to self-improvement, and I took a more holistic approach. At the same time that I was reading books and watching videos that were teaching me about money and pursuing financial freedom, I was studying meditation and mindset and how to take good care of my body. But things didn't just get better for me overnight. I had to start taking incremental baby steps using my new mindset. The first baby step that I made was the choice to move back to Maui to set up my life there. Now, not everyone has the luxury of knowing exactly where they want to live, but for me, whenever I visualized my ideal life, my mind and my heart always took me back to Hawaii. And I discovered that for me, the ability to live where I want is truly a top priority. No amount of money will make you feel happy if you feel stuck in an undesirable location. Yes, Maui is an expensive place to live, but what I discovered as time went on is that it's much easier to grow your own wealth if you're in a location that has a high concentration of other wealthy people. You have to put yourself in the right environment, and Hawaii is one of the places with the highest concentration of millionaires in the United States. Now, the second choice that I made that set me up for success was reclaiming my time by finding a way to set my own schedule. You see, I definitely needed income as I was falling further and farther into debt, but I also knew that from my previous experience that a salary position with a set income and a full schedule wouldn't get me to where I wanted to go. In order to get back on track, I went back to work in basically the same construction management position that I had before, but this time I negotiated a deal with a company that I was working for that I'd be classified as an independent contractor. And as an independent contractor, I was able to work a set amount of hours each week as a consultant, but I set my own schedule. And this is what gave me the flexibility to pursue other avenues of making money that had higher potential. Okay, so now I had time freedom and enough income to survive on. But then I had to figure out what else I could do that had a higher income ceiling. So I started a few businesses that were somewhat successful, but really they were more like side hustles, and I wasn't able to scale them enough to make it worth my time. One of those businesses was an in-home personal training business where I'd travel to clients' homes and work out with them in their private gyms. I did enjoy this, but just like having a job, I was limited by being paid by the hour. However, as you can imagine, most of my clients that hired me were high net worth people. So another turning point for me actually came during a workout session with one of my clients. You see, while we exercised, we'd have conversations about a wide range of topics. And of course, since it was something that I was genuinely interested in, the business of making money and building wealth was certainly one of the things that we would talk about. And I'd often talk to my clients about different real estate investment ideas that I was dreaming of doing someday when I had enough money. Now, to be clear, I wasn't trying to sell them on anything. I was just talking about something that I was truly interested in. It was something that I was so aligned with that my client asked me if I ever considered getting into real estate sales. They could see that it was something that I was passionate about, and they thought I'd be really good at it. Now, honestly, getting into sales of any type had never really occurred to me. It was just something that wasn't in my awareness. However, it didn't take me long to realize that commission-based income has a much higher income potential than anything else I was doing at the time. You see, in sales, your income is no longer limited by the number of hours you can work. You get paid based on your sales volume, and the income ceiling is much higher. So it was at that point that I was 100% all in on pursuing a real estate career. Now, I had to keep my construction management consulting job to pay the bills and to maintain a schedule flexibility, but I dropped everything else I was doing and I focused all my efforts on getting my real estate license, and I committed what little room I had left on my credit cards to building a real estate website to attract clients. Like I said, I was all in. There was no plan B. Now, with all that being said, success in real estate definitely did not happen overnight. My credit cards were maxed, but somehow I was still calm. I had faith that I was on the right path, and everything really felt aligned. When I finally got my first sale, I was so close to the edge financially that I was taking on new loans just to pay the interest on my credit cards. So I really was just a couple months from being forced to declare bankruptcy. Now, I believe that one of the keys to my breakthrough and what probably prevented me from having a mental breakdown is that every day I spent time visualizing the feeling that I expected to experience when I closed my first big sale. Some people call this visualizing, others call it manifesting, but regardless of what you call it, I truly believe it works. So it took me around 6 months to get my first sale in real estate, and that netted me a commission of just over $6,000. Now, it might not sound like a lot now, but at the time, that was the largest check I had ever cashed. From here, it took me a few years to scale up my real estate business. My first year I made around $30,000 from real estate commissions. The second year, I made around $60,000, and my third year in real estate, I made just over $100,000 for the first time in my life. But looking back on it now, this was just the beginning. I did continue to grow my real estate sales business and make very good income, but what really accelerated my growth, the growth of my net worth, was when I started to invest in real estate. So as soon as I had saved up enough money for the minimum 3% down payment, I bought my first condo in Hawaii. And for a while, I did what's called house hacking, which means I lived in the property myself as my primary residence, and I rented out one of the bedrooms to help cover the mortgage payments. Now, after a few years, the property increased in value from around $625,000 that I purchased it for until I sold it for $875,000. And after a while, I also bought an investment property, and that property cash flows, which means the rental income covers all the expenses, including my mortgage. Now, since I purchased that property, it's also increased in value over $200,000. So investing in the right assets actually accounted for nearly half of my first $1 million in net worth. You see, earned income, no matter how much you make, will only get you so far. It's your investments that will set you free and build your wealth over time. So that's the story of how I made my first $1 million in net worth, and I'm still growing. I've since started to invest in the stock market and a little bit into precious metals as well, but those investments started well after I made my first $1 million through real estate sales and real estate investing. Now, I know that not everyone can follow the exact same path that I did for their first million, but here are the lessons that I learned that I think anyone can apply. First of all, remove or at least minimize any negative people in your life and start to surround yourself with positive and inspiring people. Bad relationships will drag you down and keep you trapped. Surrounding yourself with the right people will lift you up and build your confidence. Number two, figure out a way to regain control of your own schedule. If all your time and energy is taken up by a job that barely pays the bills, you won't be able to free yourself from the rat race. Number three, figure out ways to make money that is not limited by the number of hours you can work. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. For me, it was transitioning from hourly income into commission-based income. And number four, as soon as you're able, start investing and finding ways for your money to multiply itself with little or no work on your end. Real estate is the most common way for people to do this. And finally, don't blindly follow what society says is the safe path in life. Educate yourself on money, relationships, investing, and most importantly, learn how to control your mindset. Visualization might have been the biggest key to my success. If you believe it, you can achieve it, but you have to set clear intentions and have faith that everything is working for your greatest good. And that's what I hope to help you achieve with this YouTube channel. Look, I'm just a guy who stumbled my way into my first $1 million, and I'm continuing to grow and evolve and learn. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I can share what I've learned along the way through my own experiences, so maybe you won't make the same mistakes that I did. I have a lot more to share. This is just the start, so if you're interested in taking this journey with me, subscribe to the channel, and if you know anyone else that could use some inspiration, share this video with them so they can also see that anything is possible when you're in alignment with your goals. Honestly, if I can do it, so can you.